In this video, I'm super excited to show you how to make the project bag of your dreams. This is one that I made the other day, and I'm going to take you through exactly what you need to do to make one of your own. You're going to need around 1/2 meter of your outer and lining fabrics. I normally actually just use leftover fabric from various projects. You'll also be needing some interfacing for this project, so you can either use lightweight or medium weight interfacing. This one was done using medium weight interfacing. You will also need some cotton cord, and this is basically for the strings that you'll pull to close the project bag. I will link the one that I use in the description, but it's from Amazon, so pretty easily available. If you don't want to use this, you can of course use ribbon, or you can even cut a long strip out of your fabric. It's totally up to you. I just find this works better. So let's get started and make our project bags. Now that you have all of your supplies, it's time to get cutting. So there's a few different pieces that you will need to cut out, and I will have them on screen and you can screenshot it so that you know exactly what you need to do. So first of all, let's go through what you'll need to cut out of the main fabric. You'll need to cut out 2 8 by 30 centimeter rectangles. Then you'll need one 21 centimeter circle and one 30 by 25 centimeter cut on the fold. So your end rectangle will be 60 by 25 centimeters. So you're cutting on the fold along the 25 centimeter line. From your interfacing, you'll just need to cut the 21 centimeter circle and the 30 by 25 centimeter rectangle on the fold. Moving on to your lining fabric, you'll need to cut out one 21 centimeter circle and two 32 by 25 centimeter rectangles. Then you'll need one 32 by 20 centimeter rectangle, and this is for a pocket. If you don't want to do a pocket, you can omit this. It's very easy to just skip that step. Okay, so now that you have everything cut out, what you're going to now do is interface your main fabric. So there's 2 pieces that you're interfacing. You're interfacing the long 60 centimeter by 25 centimeter rectangle, and you're also interfacing your circle. And these are just your main fabrics. When you're doing your interfacing, you'll notice there's a shiny side and a matte side. If you just kind of pass it back and forth under a light, you'll be able to tell which side that is. The side that's shiny is the sticky side. So you want that to be going into your fabric. And normally what I do is I lay that with the shiny bit upwards, and then I lay my fabric that I want to interface it to on top with the right side up. So you want to make sure the wrong side is what's being stuck to the interfacing. And then I just iron over the top. And once you've done that, you should end up with a nice, slightly thicker piece of fabric. So this cotton is pretty floaty, but as you can see now, it's got a little bit more structure to it. And I've got my circle and my big rectangle. If you notice in places it's kind of lifting up a bit, just go back over it with your iron, leaving your iron there for a little bit longer just to make sure it properly fuses. Now that you have everything cut out, we are going to start by assembling the lining. So put to the side all of your main pieces of fabric and just pull out your lining fabric. So we're going to start by with the edge of the pocket. What you're going to do is take your pocket piece, which is the slightly shorter rectangle, and fold it down twice at the top. Fold it down first by 1/2 centimeter and then by 1 centimeter, and then we're going to sew along the edge. You're essentially just hemming the edge of the pocket so that we have no raw edges. We're then going to sew the pocket to one of the rectangles. Taking one of your 25 centimeter in depth rectangles, lay your pocket on top of that, and then just baste down the 2 side edges just to keep them in place. And then fold everything in half so that you have a good idea of where the half point is. If you are struggling to see the line on your fabric, then just use a pen to mark it. So all the way up to where the pocket ends, so that that's then attached, and you have 2 nice little pockets for you to put your knitting needles or whatever project stuff you want in. Now's a good time to just trim any of those ends that you've left and neaten it up so that it's ready for the next step. Okay, now you're going to take your other main rectangle piece and place it on top of what you've just made so that it's right sides facing. And we're just going to pin along the short edges and sew along both of them. So you'll be forming like a cylinder. You're going to sew with a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Head over to your ironing board, open those seams and iron them flat. Don't skip ironing no matter how tempting it may be, because it does make a big difference to the final product. Cool, so once you've done that, you should have like quite a big cylinder looking thing. Now we want to attach the base to it. So my recommendation is to fold the circle in half and then make notches so that you have the like halfway point across the circle, and then line each of those notches with the side seams of the cylinder that you've made. You can then go through and pin the rest, evening it out across the circle. Then head over to your sewing machine and sew it with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. This can be fiddly. It does make it slightly easier if you make snips into your circle piece. Don't go further than the seam allowance, try and keep it fairly short, but it does kind of loosen up the circle a bit, which does make it easier. But this is the lining, so it's not the end of the world if it doesn't look perfect, which is why we're doing this one first. Now just press the base of the circle so that it's nice and neat. So you should now have your lining fully assembled into what just looks like a big bucket bag, but you can kind of see where the project bag part is coming in. That last part of like doing the circle onto the cylinder is definitely the most fiddly part. So you've done it once, you can do it again. But now if you have a look inside, it should look like the inside of a project bag. So well done for getting this far. We can now pop the lining to the side and we're going to assemble the same thing with the main fabric. For your main fabric, you obviously just have one bigger piece. That's just to try and keep the pattern consistent. You could have cut it the same way as we did the lining, but to keep the stripes for mine consistent, I've just done it with one long piece. So what I'm going to do is fold it in half and sew along the short edge to produce a similar cylinder to what we did with the lining. Then you're going to sew on the circle, the last one, promise. Sew on the circle to the bottom, and then you should have 2 cylinders that look very similar in your lining and your main fabric. Now you should have your main outer bag, and you'll see they look very similar, and I think you can tell what happens in the end. But for now, we're going to put both of those aside, and you're going to grab your remaining piece that you haven't done anything with, which are these 2 smaller rectangles. They are 8 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And what we're going to do for each of them is, for each edge piece, you are going to fold it down by 1/2 centimeter twice, and then sew along the edge, sew along both of the 8 centimeter edges. And then we're gonna fold them in half and just iron it in half. You should now have all of your pieces ready to go, and we can do the final construction. Okay, what we're going to do is fold the lining down by about 2.5 centimeters, and then we're going to fold the main fabric down by about 1.5 centimeters. The reason why we're doing them differently is so that the lining just sits a little bit higher up, and what you want to do is both of them you're going to fold towards the wrong side. So you want to fold them towards where your kind of seams are visible. Once you've done that, we will then assemble it all together. Start by marking the halfway point in your outer fabric and then lining that up with one of the side seams of your inner lining. Then line up the side seams of both the inner and outer on the other side. Now take one of the 2 remaining pieces and sandwich it between the outer and the lining fabric, lining it up about 1 centimeter away from the side seam. Then continue passing the fabric along. You want it to be about 1 centimeter deep into the 2 pieces of fabric. Now take this over to your sewing machine and sew along where you've pinned. I recommend changing your bobbin thread so that it matches the colour of your lining fabric, as this just makes for a neater result. I sew with the edge of my foot lining up with the edge of the fabric. Now you can trim your ends and press everything before admiring your work. Okay, well done. You should now have a project bag. So all we need to do now is feed through some cotton cord and you will have your very own little project bag. Let's now cut out some pieces of cotton cord and feed it through, and I'll show you how to do that, and then you're done, but you've done all your sewing now. This is what I mean by cotton cording. I just get mine on Amazon, so I will put a link down below. You can also use ribbon, or you could even make ties out of your own fabric. I just find that these work better. They slide a lot easier, it's a lot smoother. Okay, so if you grab a little safety pin and your cording, what I tend to do is leave it attached to the roll, just because it means you definitely have enough. So I just pop the safety pin through one end. I tend to go a little bit further in, just to make sure that I'm not going to lose it when it frays a little bit as you pull it around. And then, as you would if you were feeding elastic through, for example, I'm just going to start over here, feed it all the way through, and then leave that hanging down and tie that in a knot. And then I'm going to take another piece and start on the other side, feeding it again all the way through and leave a little knot hanging down. And that's basically all you do. Just like that, you should have a lovely new project bag for you to use for all your knitting, embroidery, crochet, or just a very cute little bucket bag. I'm super happy with how this one turned out. I will say the thicker canvas made this trickier than it needed to be, so would recommend using a lighter weight fabric and interfacing it, but I am super happy with how it's turned out. I think that the pockets are really nice, and yeah, the inside definitely looks like a project bag. I also really like the colour of the lining with the outside of this fabric. I think they go very, very well together. And now I can have a project bag that matches my skirt, which is always useful. I thought I would quickly also talk about other ideas that you can do if you don't just want to interface it and make it. So obviously I've shown you this one, which has embroidery on it, and this is embroidery that I actually did. I followed an embroidery pattern and did it on the size of fabric that I needed, and then just made the pattern as I normally would. The other thing that you could do is quilt it. This was actually the first toile that I made of this project bag pattern. But this one I quilted, so it's got some batting, and then I did some hand quilting, and I think that does make a really nice effect, and I'll definitely make more quilted ones in the future. So those are just a few ideas of how you can enhance the basic pattern that we went through today. But yeah, I hope that you are happy with your new project bag. I'd love to see pictures, tag me in them on Instagram, and leave comments on what kind of fabrics you're going to use, because I would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, as I would very much appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!